Hi everyone, today I am going to discuss with you the process state transition diagram. So, there are mainly everywhere you will find the main 5 state process transition diagram. So, in this video I will discuss with you 2 more state and I will discuss also the different types of scheduler. So, let us start. So, the very first state is new. So, when the process is in new state, it does not mean that it has been created. So, you cannot say it is a process. So, in the previous lecture I have already told you what is a process. So, when a program is in execution is known as a process. So, in the new state, when a process is in new state, you cannot say it is a process. You can say it is a program which is in secondary memory, will be picked by the operating system and it will put into the main memory, fine. So, you can say it is a program which is about to create, but it has not been created yet, fine. After the new state, when the process will go? So, after the creation of the process, it will go to the ready state. Here you can say that it has been created. So, the process is created now and it will go to the ready state. So, in ready state you can say the process is about to ready for execution, fine. So, in ready state, so first of all process is in new state, it is a secondary memory, it is a program now. So, the program is picked by the operating system and it will put to the ready state which is in a main memory, okay. Ready state is within a main memory. So, the process here in ready state, process is about to ready to run, okay. You can say in ready state a process is ready to run, okay. So, after that where it will go? So, after the ready state it will go to the running state. So, after the creation of the process it will go to the ready state and when it is ready to run it will, after that it will go to the running state. So, this phenomenon is known as scheduled. So, now the process is scheduled or you can say it is dispatch. So, the process is dispatched. First of all, the process is scheduled to run, scheduled to execute, and it is done by the software which is known as, or you can say it is dispatch, okay. The operating system pick the process from the ready queue and put it into the another main memory which is running state. So, after the running state, after the execution, how the process can go? So, after the running, process will see if everything goes smoothly, then after the running state, after the execution of the process, when the process has completes its execution, it will go to the terminated state, okay. Final state is terminated state. If everything goes smoothly. So, see, running state means what? To that process CPU has been allocated, okay. So, the process is within the CPU, it is executing. So, if everything goes smoothly, if no disturbance is there, then the process is simply terminate or simply completes its execution and go to the terminate state. So, here you can say that the process is completed. If someone asks you what are the minimum states a process is going through, a process can going through, then you can say 4 minimum states. Besides this, there are another one more state is there. So, we called it as waiting state. Waiting, or somewhere it is written as blocked state. Okay. So, where it is required? So, waiting or blocked state is in some case during execution, in some case process needs some IO operations. So, when some IO request, when a process needs some IO request, it is go to the waiting state, okay, from the running state to waiting state. So, you can write IO request. So, in the waiting state, or somewhere it is written as blocked state. So, when a process needs some IO operations, then during its execution it has been blocked by the operating system and it is go to the waiting or blocked state, and after the IO operation completes, it will resume its execution and go back to the ready state. Remember, it will not go back to the running state again. Fine. When it's come to the waiting state, there may be some another process which are in queue, they were executing in the running state, and in that time when its IO operation completes, when the process completes its IO operation, it will not go back to the running state again. It will go back to the ready state to resume its execution, and after that ready state to running state, thereafter it completes its execution. Fine. So, you can write IO operation completes. So, here this is the minimum 5 states transition diagram. Everywhere you will find this 5 states transition diagram: new, ready, running, waiting, and finally terminated state. Then I am going to say about 2 more state. So, that is, one is suspended ready. Suspend ready. So, when it will be required? Suspend ready state, its state, this is a state when the process is comes from the ready state to the suspend ready state. So, the process where is in the ready state will comes to the suspend ready state. You know that in new state, this is not the process, this is the program, and when it is ready to run, then it will go to the ready state. And you know that new is a secondary memory, and when it is created, when a program is created for a process, then it is go to the main memory. It picked by the operating system and it will put into the ready state, and ready state is within the main memory. We call it as a main memory, and when the process is executing, the process is allocated by the CPU. It has been allocated by the CPU already. So, the process executing within the main memory. So, running state is also within the main memory and the waiting state also within the main memory. So, these are the main memory. So, this is drawn within the main memory. So, we know that I have already told you the size of the main memory is limited, is small. So, if there are many processes resides in main memory at a time, then it can be exhausted. Fine. The main memory size can be exhausted. So, for that purpose, if there is a process of some, maybe there is some process of higher priority and it has to be executed first, at that time the size of the ready state is small, is limited. So, what happens? The operating system at that time select the lower priority process, the process is having lower priority, is go through, or you can say swapped out to the suspend. The process is having lower priority, is suspended by the operating system and swapped out to this state, main memory to secondary memory. So, this is one type of secondary memory. When the size of the main memory is exhausted, then the operating system select the lower priority process to the secondary memory for some time. Okay. The process having higher priority is done and execution done, then after that the process is resumes to the ready state. The main memory, the process is go to the main memory to the secondary memory. So, here the suspend ready is used to store the lower priority processes when the size of the main memory is limited, is exhausted or full. Then at that time operating system swapped out the process to the suspend ready state, and after some time when the ready state is clear, then after that the process in suspend ready resumes to the ready state and go to and schedule to the running state. Fine. Another state is suspend wait state or suspend blocked state, we can say. Or blocked. So, we know that waiting or blocked state is also within a main memory. So, if huge amounts of process are doing IO operations one by one, then what happens? The waiting, the main memory, this state can be exhausted. Then at that time we require suspend wait blocked state. It is also one type of secondary memory. When the waiting or blocked state is exhausted and all the processes are doing their IO operations, then at that moment the operating system picked some process from the waiting state to the suspend wait or blocked state. So, it is not like that when the process is go to the suspend wait or block state, it is not doing its IO operations. It is not like that. It does not mean that the process is not doing its IO operation. Still it is doing its IO operation in the suspend wait or suspend blocked state. So, after the IO operation completes, when the waiting or blocked state is clear, maybe at that moment it will go to the, it will resumes its IO operation and it will go to the waiting or blocked state. And in the suspend wait state, if it completes its IO operation, then it will go to the suspend ready state and again to the ready state, and after that it will go to the running state and terminated. So, one question may arise, why the process within suspend wait or suspend ready state, when it completes its IO operations, why it is not go to the waiting state? So, when the process completes its IO operation, if it is go back to the waiting state, then it will go to the blocked state. So, for that reason maybe there are some another process that they doing their IO operation in waiting or blocked state at that moment, and if it completes its execution, it will not go back to the waiting state. If it completes its IO operation, then it will go back to the suspend ready state, another secondary memory, and after that it will resume its to the ready state, and after that it is scheduled by the operating system to the CPU, and after completes its execution it is terminated, it will go to the terminated state. So, this is called process state transition diagram, and this type of process state transition diagram, it is called as non-preemption. This is non-preemption. So, what do you mean by non-preemption? This is called as non-preemption. So, in the previous lecture I have already told you that in multi-programming operating system, we cannot remove the process from the CPU forcefully. So, in multi-programming, if the process is in running state, that means it is executing. It has been, that process has been allocated to that CPU. then in multi-programming cases we cannot forcefully remove that process from the running state and allocate some another process to that CPU. We cannot do that in multi-programming cases. So when it is removed, either in this scenario, see, look at this diagram, this is non-preemption diagram. This is one type of multi-programming cases. So in these cases, when the process is executing, if it needs some IO operation, then at that time only it is go to the IO block, I mean waiting state or blocked state. Otherwise it is terminated. If everything goes smoothly, then the process will be terminated. But in case of when it needs some IO request, it needs some IO operation, then that at that time it's only go to the block state and CPU at that time CPU would be free. But we cannot forcefully remove that process to from the CPU. Okay, that is known as non-preemption. But we have some multitasking operating system. उसमें क्या हुआ था? We can forcefully remove the process from the CPU. Okay, so if I draw this transition running state to ready state, see, if I draw this transition from running to ready state, then this would be called as preemption. So if I draw this transition diagram from running to ready, this one type of multitasking. Multitasking में क्या हुआ था? We can forcefully remove the process from the running state. So at which cases? At the time when the time quantum is expired. Maybe some time quantum will expire. In multitasking operating system, we give some time quantum and some processes is allocated by some time quantum. We give some time quantum allocated to that each process, and when the time quantum is complete, the process will forcefully remove from the CPU and another process will be allocated to that CPU. So maybe when the processes go to the running state to ready state, maybe some time quantum expired, or some another reason may be priority. In case of priority, if there are many processes, huge processes are resides in ready state. Maybe there are some process which is having some higher priority than the process which is running, which is executing in the running state. So at that time the higher priority process will go to the running state, and the lower priority which is executing running in the running state will forcefully removed, and for some times it blocked for some time, and after that it would be resumes its execution again. So this case is happening in multitasking programming. So now I am going to discuss with you the many types of scheduler. Fine. So there are mainly three types of scheduler: short term, long term and medium term scheduler. So the long term scheduler will decide how many process, the number of process would picked from the new state to the ready state. So it also decides, this long term scheduler also decides the degree of multiprogramming. So what is the degree of multiprogramming? So there are many process, the huge number of process are resides in ready state at a time. So how many process are there in the ready state? So this is decides by the long term scheduler. If there are 50 process resides within the ready state, then the degree of multiprogramming is 50. So if 20 process are there in the ready state, then the degree of multiprogramming is 20. How many processes are resides in the ready state will be decides by long term scheduler. So next is after process come from the secondary memory, that program come from the secondary memory, and that program created to the process, and that process, when the process is created and comes to the ready state, then after that it would be picked by the operating system to the running state. So, this work is done by the short term scheduler. Short term scheduler. So, the short term scheduler decides which process has to go to the running state, and it also decides how many process, what is the priority of the process, what is the time quantum, which process has to go to the go from the ready state to the running state, which process has to be allocated by the CPU. It is decides by the short term scheduler. So, short term scheduler also called the it also called the dispatcher. So, the dispatcher is called by the short term scheduler. Okay. So, when the short term scheduler selects the process which is to be executed, so at that time the dispatcher will be called by the short term scheduler, and it that process will be dispatched by the dispatcher to the CPU. Fine. So, next is medium term scheduler. So, what is the medium term scheduler? See, the waiting state to suspend wait state and the ready state to suspend ready state. This process, this phenomenon is done by the medium term scheduler. So, the process which is suspended by the operating system to the suspend wait state, it is not like that that process is within the suspend wait state for long time, and it is not like that that process within the suspend wait or blocked state for a short time. So, that is why it is called medium term scheduler. So, the frequency of the long term scheduler is very low. So, the higher frequency is short term scheduler, it called very frequently, very fast, and after that medium term scheduler. This is not take so long time, and this is not takes so short time. This is not frequently, it is not called so frequently, and is not it is not takes so long time. Okay. So, now there is another funda is two type of process are there. We have two type of process, CPU time, IO time. See, we have two types of process in our process state transition diagram. So, if the process is spent more and more time in CPU, in more and more time in executing in CPU, that process is called CPU bound. And if the process is spent more and more time in IO operations in waiting state, then it is called IO bound. So, which process has to be called very frequently, CPU bound or IO bound? You know that that is decided by the short term scheduler which process has to be select for running state. So, in that case, if the short term scheduler selects the process which is IO bound time, suppose the process spends more and more time with doing IO operations, then what happens? Then all the process, if there are 20 process resides in ready state and short term scheduler selects maximum process which is IO bound time, what happens? Then if out of 20 there is 15 process which is IO bound. If short term scheduler selects 15 process which is our IO bound, then what happens? all the 15 processes during its executions go to the waiting state again and again. So, here CPU utilizations is low, will be low. So, CPU utilizations will be low in that cases. So, another case, if the short term scheduler selects maximum process which is CPU bound, that means the process spends more and more time within CPU. So, what happens in that cases? So, if there are 20 process and 20 process resides in ready queue and among these 15 processes are CPU bound, then what happens? Maybe rest 5 processes, if within among 20 processes 15 processes are CPU bound and rest 5 processes are need some IO operation. What happens? This rest 5 processes face starvations, okay, because 15 processes, all maximum processes are CPU bound time, they are executing in running state one by one again and again. So, rest 5 processes, which process are needs IO operation, then they go to the waiting state and at that time they face starvation because all the processes are doing their execution in running state. So, they have to wait for long time. So, they face starvation. So, short term scheduler have to choose a mix of IO bound and CPU bound. Okay. So, this is the basic concept of process state transition diagram, and in the next video I will discuss about the different scheduling criteria. Okay. I hope this was clear to you. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Thank you.